Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome each of you here today as we celebrate Reggie Turner on receiving the Maryland Historical Trust 2026 Outstanding Individual Leadership at the Local Level Preservation Award. Absolutely, he deserves all of that. My name is Nikki Frierson. I was born and raised just a block from here, and as a child, I ran the hallways of this building with my friends, and I'm so humbled and honored to have been asked to serve as your MC for the hour. And as much as we're here to celebrate this recognition and acknowledge Reggie's amazing work, today is also an opportunity for us to honor and uplift the history of the Robert W. Johnson Community Center and the Jonathan Street community. Now, many of you know the story of this building and this community, but it is important that we highlight, especially today, the Robert Johnson Community Center is named after one of its past directors, Lieutenant Robert W. Johnson, a former Tuskegee Airman, who between his career as a public school educator and coach sought to uplift and educate his community, this community. His dedication and vision planted a seed that continued through generations of leadership and service within this community. Now, this building, 109 West North Avenue, originally served as the North Street School from the late 1800s until 1947, when it was converted to the YMCA. Both entities made it possible for the African American community of Washington County, and it gave them an opportunity to learn and grow. In 1968, it was incorporated as a nonprofit 5013C organization, formerly known as the Memorial Recreation Center. And that was during my era. And that started from 1980 until 2005 under the executive directorship of Ms. Ruth Ann Monroe, who, like Mr. Johnson, had a servant's heart and continuously poured into everyone she encountered, young and old, including me. I was one of the countless youngsters inspired by Ms. Ruth Ann, and she, I'm proud to say, was one of the many members of my amazing village. Historically, Jonathan Street itself became a cultural hub and a neighborhood that later faced economic challenges and redevelopment pressures. Community institutions like the Robert Johnson Center became anchors, providing youth programs, recreation, mentoring, and social services that supported residents of Jonathan Street and the surrounding neighborhood. That legacy continues today through the collective work of community leaders, partners, residents, and organizations, many of those folks represented right here in this room today. They're all committed to preserving both the history and future of this community. Reggie Turner has helped lead ongoing preservation and revitalization efforts through the Jonathan Street community, alongside those community stakeholders, preservation organizations, elected officials, and statewide partners. They all help to restore historic structures and bring renewed attention and investment to this historic neighborhood. Reggie, your commitment to historic preservation and revitalization has truly uplifted this community and set it on a path to real, tangible success. A big part of Reggie's success can be credited to the critical partnerships he helped cultivate locally and nationally, some of whom, again, are in this room with us. Those partnerships include elected officials, preservation organizations, state agencies, along with nonprofit leaders, community advocates, and institutions that recognize the importance of preserving the history, the culture, and the legacy of Jonathan Street and the Robert W. Johnson Community Center. We have an amazing slate of dignitaries who are eager to celebrate Reggie and the accomplishments made with this center. First, another Hagerstown native who went on to have a storied legal career. He is the president of the Robert W. Johnson Community Center Board of Directors and someone I've long admired. Please help me welcome Judge David Young.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Like McKee, I grew up in this community. I grew up about 300 yards from here. I attended the YMCA here. I learned to swim in that pool. My great-grandmother taught in this building in the late 1890s. My parents went to school here, and so this community and this center means so much to me. On behalf of the Robert Johnson Community Center and its board of directors, I just want to take this opportunity to welcome you to this ceremony and to thank the Maryland Historical Trust Preservation for all the work that you do to further the goal of historic preservation. I happen to live in northern Baltimore County, and one of my heartbreaks is to watch the increasing number of historic buildings that are literally torn down and to see it hauled away on the back of dump trucks. So thank you for what you do to preserve our heritage. Heartfelt thanks to each of you, including all the elected officials, those engaged in the important work of historic preservation at the local, state, and national levels, and to all the community stakeholders for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us on this momentous occasion as we celebrate a real superstar, in my opinion, and the opinion of many in the field of historic preservation. Now, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge certain people who have, in our opinion, gone above and beyond, and that includes Senator Van Hollen, Senator Alsop Brooks, Governor Hogan, and Governor Moore. My hero, Senator Joanne Claiborne Benson, who ran the playground at Wheaton Park when I was a young man, and he used to send me home every day and tell me, see you tomorrow. So thank you for all you've done to further our goal of not only this center, but also this community restoration. Also to Senator Quarterman, Paul Quarterman, because without your effort and your support, the progress we've made would not have been possible. For many years, this building has served as a beacon of hope, help, and healing in this community. As you've heard, it was a school, a YMCA, a Head Start Center, a recreation center, and most recently as the Johnson Center. Robert Johnson was not only a hero, a phys ed teacher, he was a father figure to me and to literally hundreds in this community. He went above and beyond every single day. He ran the playground. It seemed like he was always there for whoever needed him. And so it's important that we tie together that legacy along with the effort and the service of the one we celebrate today. There is a connection. So as we embark on major renovations in the immediate future, we are confident that this center will continue to provide momentum to the revitalization efforts in this community. We thank you for any assistance you have provided in any way, great or small, in our efforts to achieve this goal. And we also look forward with anticipation to any support you will provide in the future. Hint, hint. With your support, the Johnson Center will be able to continue its long tradition of serving as an anchor in this community, which happens to be, one of the oldest African-American communities in the state of Maryland. I hope you can tell how excited we are by your presence and by your decision to give well-deserved recognition to one of our board members, Reggie Turner. The late James Brown, some of you in this room may remember James Brown. I certainly do. I saw him performing in person. I guess I'm showing my age. But James Brown was said to be the hardest working man in show business. Well, we at the Johnson Center believe Reggie Turner to be the hardest working person in the arena of historic preservation. The Robert Johnson Center, along with the people of the historic Johnson Street community and many others in this room, can attest to to his concern and his commitment to the cause of historic preservation, but also to community empowerment. By his tireless, selfish, and sacrificial efforts, Reggie continues to demonstrate steadfast commitment to the cause of historic preservation and community empowerment. So for this, we thank you. We thank you for bestowing this prestigious award on a most deserving individual, Reggie Turner. Finally, thanks to the Johnson Center Board, many of whom are here, for their continued work to transform this center into all it can be. To the North High students who came, who greeted many of you, to all other volunteers, and anyone who worked in any way to make this a success, thank you so much for being here. Have a great day, and let's celebrate even now. The star of the hour.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Judge Young. Next, join me in welcoming another Hagerstonian who has stood shoulder to shoulder with Reggie and others to support various projects in and around the Jonathan Street community. By the way, we also attended North High together. Won't talk about the year, though. Please help me welcome State Senator for Maryland District 2, Senator Paul Quarterman.
Thank you. I appreciate that introduction. As she said, and please, Senator Benson, please don't hold it against us that we did go to North High. But my colors are green and white, so, just keep that in mind also. So we appreciate everything on South High for you as well. So, again, thank you everyone for the opportunity to be here. As we said, I'm Senator Paul Quarterman. I represent District 2, which is a majority of Washington County, a little bit of Frederick County, but really the city of Hagerstown is really the epicenter of the district. As I said, again, I went to North High. I only live probably 3 minutes from here. I think it took me to get here. So long member of the Hagerstown community. I really appreciate being able to be here and appreciate just being a small part of this much larger project and being with so many people here that share the same sentiments that we all do here in regards to not just to Reggie, but everything here in the community and the preservation we're doing. I see Russ Hodges over there. I remember a few years ago with the house on Jonathan Street, when Reggie was involved with that and everything that you guys did and how it really brought the community together and all the people that saw that and continue to see it today. And so we just appreciate everything. I recall as a lot of this was reflection as I was thinking about what I was going to say today and thinking about when Reggie and I, first met years ago and how our relationship has kind of developed over the years. And I still remember one time Reggie wasn't on the board here at the center yet. I remember asking you specifically, would you get involved with the board here at the Johnson Center? Oh man, I don't know if I can do that. And that was only because Reggie is so involved in so many other things. And thankfully, he has gotten involved, obviously, in the board here. And it's been obviously a true asset, not just to the community here in the Johnson Street community, our much larger community as a whole, but specifically here as a member of the board, for everything he's been able to do, not just, here at the center, but for preservation, overall here in the community. Our community is a much better place because of individuals and people like Reggie Turner. Again, I'd be remiss, I mentioned earlier, but Senator Benson, I can't thank you enough for the relationship that we've built over the years. Everyone knows, and I learned very quickly when I went to Annapolis a few years ago, that Senator Benson is the senator from District 2. And so we appreciate you so much, Senator Benson, and I appreciate the conversation we had earlier, that you're continuing to be involved. I know I'm going to hear from her many, many times going forward and look forward to that continued collaboration. And we all look forward, obviously, to the day when the pool opens here later this summer and how exciting that's going to be for the community and all the effort that's gone into that, not just from Reggie, but everybody here. And so, this is not just a recognition of how important it is to preserve and invest in our communities, but we really appreciate, the Historical Trust being here and recognize what we've all known for such a long time, how great Reggie Turner is and the impact he's made in our communities, and just can't thank him enough for everything he's done. So thank you, Reggie.
Thank you so much, Senator Quarterman. Now, this next gentleman and I have a really special connection. We are both graduates of the illustrious, the phenomenal, the true HU, Hampton University. Please help me give a round of applause for the Assistant Director of the statewide team for the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, Garland Thomas.
The real HU. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Garland Thomas, and on behalf of the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development and Secretary Jake Day, I want to congratulate Reggie on receiving this award from the Maryland Historical Trust. It's fitting that Reggie is being honored with the 2026 Maryland Preservation Award for outstanding individual leadership at a local level. DACD is committed to making livable spaces in Maryland and preserving the unique historical qualities that make places like Hagerstown so special. But our mission only goes as far as the people we partner with and the vision they have for their communities. The Robert W. Johnson Community Center has been a part of Hagerstown historical fabric for decades, and we are proud to have invested more than $500,000 to ensure this city continues to have a safe and inclusive space for education, recreation, and personal development. Sorry, I'm speaking for a minute. Now, while carrying on the legacy of Lieutenant Robert W. Johnson, a former Tuskegee airman who between his career as a public school educator, coach, and was someone who cared deeply about this place and the community, our work here and across the state does not happen without the passion and dedication of people like Reggie Turner. Now, let me say this is not in my script. I got here a little early and I got to talk to Reggie, and I agree with you, Judge Young. This is a superstar. I feel like I'm part of the team. I was offering up money I don't have. And so, I'm already convinced. All right. So Reggie was instrumental in successfully launching a multi-million-dollar capital redevelopment effort focusing on securing the long-term sustainability of the Robert W. Johnson Community Center. Reggie, Judge Young, and the members of our state legislature and others provide us insight and guidance on how the department can best serve Hagerstown and revitalize Jonathan Street community. At DACD, we like to say that design lends dignity, and great places change perceptions. That doesn't apply to just this building, but the people who use it. Allowing the Robert W. Johnson Community Center to grow will mean generations will be able to achieve goals of self-reliance, innovation, and reaching fullest educational and social potential. And it began with the work of people like Reggie Turner. And so again, on behalf of DACD, Secretary Day, congratulations, Reggie, and keep up the great work. And we can't wait to see what's next for the Robert W. Johnson Community Center. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those words, Garland. Now, our next speaker probably doesn't need an introduction. She's already been mentioned several times already, but she certainly is deserving of one. She also is a native of Jonathan Street, who went on to do life-changing work in the Prince George's County public school system, as well as the county itself, and eventually the Maryland State House, initially as a delegate and later as a state senator. Joanne C. Benson is a one-of-a-kind force of goodness. And if you're in a fight, she's who you want in your corner. And that's where she's been when it comes to just about anything related to this community. Say the word and she's right there. And I am beyond proud to be able to call her my aunt, whom I love. So please help me welcome Senator Joanne Benson.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Isn't it wonderful? Is it good to be here? You know, I just want you all to know that the room that you're in was my second grade classroom with Miss Selena Harmon. And across the hall was my first grade classroom with Miss Goldie Maker, who happened to be from Philadelphia. How many of y'all remember? How many of y'all remember Goldie Maker and Selena Harmon? Raise your hand. I know, it's your age, I know. I can't tell you all how glad I am to be here. When I received the phone call that Reggie Turner was going to be honored, I called my scheduler and I said, listen, whatever is on my schedule, I want you to take it off. Because it's so important for me to come to my hometown where I was raised, about 5 minutes from here. I can see my mother now waving us down the hill, down the street and up the hill, because I lived on North Street with my mother and my father and 6 children in a 2-bedroom house. We were poor and didn't even know it. But we were in a community where everybody was a part of the village. Everybody looked out for everybody. We didn't know what it was like to even lock our doors. The doors were open. Someone needed flour, whatever you needed. The community pitched in and helped out. We didn't have to leave the community because everything was right here. And so it is a blessing for me to be here this afternoon. Reggie Turner. Every once in a while, the Lord smiles on a situation and sends the best and the brightest. Reggie Turner is unbelievable. During session and even after session, we could see Reggie Turner in Annapolis or wherever he needed to go to advocate not only for the Johnson Center, the Robert Johnson Center, but for Hagerstown, Maryland. You all should really, really give this young man a round of applause for who he is. Let's give him a round. A lot has happened. The one thing that we were worried about, Reggie, was this building. I happened to work with Mr. Johnson out in the park. And yes, we didn't put up with a lot of nonsense from the children. If they didn't do the right thing, we spoke to them first. And if they didn't do the right thing, we did what we had to do. I don't want to go into that. But it was a village. And some of the youngsters that we worked with in this building and at the park have gone on. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have educators, we have business people, we have a judge. Wonderful things happened here. No one was incarcerated. That was not a part of the equation. Nobody got into trouble. Because before they got into trouble, the ministers worked on the families to keep the children out of trouble. So I am just very glad to be here. I was a little worried several years ago, well, longer than that, when Bethel Street was torn down. For those of you who don't know, that was where Harriet Tubman worshiped. That was the Underground Railroad for the Bethel Street AME Church. That was an Underground Railroad where she came through and they rested under the Bethel AME Church going on up to Pennsylvania. Frederick Douglass preached at Bethel AME Church. It was too late for us to come together to do something about the tearing down of that church. It was too late. But we were bound and determined that we were going to ensure that we come together to see that the same thing would not happen to this beloved school. For so many, when there was a problem, we could always come to the center. We could always call on Robert Johnson. If you look at his history, a Tuskegee Airman, if you look at his record as an educator who cared, as a matter of fact, he and Miss Selena Harmon, Miss Goldie Makel were so instrumental in me wanting to become a teacher. I cannot tell you all how important it is for this community in particular to understand that you have a diamond ring here. And it's also important that you understand that you have a board of directors with a chairman that's fully committed to ensuring that wonderful things continue to happen. I want to also thank Senator Quarterman. Senator Quarterman and I served on the same committee, Budget and Taxation Committee. And we would talk. There may have been things that we disagreed with, but we disagreed without being disagreeable. We worked together. We were not concerned about party. No, that doesn't come. No, that's not in the picture. What was in the picture was to ensure that wonderful things happen in Hagerstown in this community. Because we felt for so long our community had been so neglected. And I want to thank him from the depths of my heart for his kind and gentle spirit. And he is highly respected in Annapolis, Maryland. Thank you so much, Senator Quarterman. Let's give him a round of applause. I could go on and on talking about the many things that have happened here in Hagerstown that have inspired me to be who I am. Because when I was growing up, there were many times that there was not a lot of hope for me. People did not think that I would ever be successful in life. What they didn't know, and they really didn't know, the kind of father I had. How many of y'all knew my father? Please raise your hand. No nonsense. He was bound and determined that his children would be educated. And before he passed, he said, Joanne, it's important that we as a family ensure that every child born in this family receives an education. And I don't care how we do it. I'll be gone, but you all find the means to ensure that every child in this family is educated. 13 children have been born since my father passed, and all have gone to college. And Nakia Claiborne Bryson is a prime example. She and our money went to Hampton University. That was a wise investment, don't you all think so? I want to thank you all for being here this afternoon. You could be doing something else, but you found it not robbery to come here, to share in a wonderful celebration, to give respect and honor and commend a young man who came to Hagerstown. I could have sat it out. Didn't have to do these things, but he worked tirelessly to ensure that the projects in this county, in this community, be maintained. And whenever he calls me, whatever it is that I can do, I am going to get it done. And with the help of Senator Quarterman and the judge and a few, and this board is wonderful, highly competent. Keep their business in-house. Disagrees, but are not disagreeable. And they are not letting negative forces get in the way of the success of the Robert Johnson Center. And I appreciate that from the depths of my heart. Whatever I can do to help this city as long as I live, as long on behalf of the Claiborne family. Whatever we can do, please don't hesitate to call on us. I had a schedule today, and I called my schedule and I said, listen, whatever is on that schedule for today, I want you to cancel it because I am going to Hagerstown. And she said, well, Senator Benson, do you have enough gas in your car? I said, wait a minute, let me run out and take a look. I just happened to have a half a tank of gas. So I'm just glad. I'm so glad to be here. I don't know what to do. If I wasn't so fat, I'd do a cartwheel down the front. But I don't think that that's appropriate, and I don't want to end up in the Washington County Hospital. Thank you all very much for being here. When you get to be a certain age, people are so nice to me. Before I became a senior citizen. I want to recognize also my sister-in-law, Joanne. Hi, Mom. Raise your hand, Joanne. She lived right here on Johnson Street and said, she shall not be moved. I want to thank her for just being a wonderful part of our family. She produced stuff, and with my brother, you're the finest student that ever walked in a pair of shoes. And I want her to know that I love her today. I really do. Thank you so much. And thank you for whipping your children.
Always a treat. Always a treat. Thank you so much for that powerful and inspiring message, Ancho. And so now we are transitioning to the moment that we've all been waiting for while we are here today. Please join me in welcoming the Director and State Historic Preservation Officer for Maryland Historical Trust, Elizabeth Hughes, who will present Reggie with the prestigious Outstanding Individual Leadership at the Local Level Preservation Award.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Johnson family here today.
Johnson family?
Here today. Could they please stand? And I need
We will recognize them in absentia nonetheless. So good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Hughes. I'm the Director of the Maryland Historical Trust, and it's my distinct pleasure to be here today. Since 1975, the Maryland Historical Trust has recognized the people and projects that help preserve and strengthen Maryland's historic communities. We are particularly grateful for the support and participation of the dignitaries who we've heard from already, Senators Paul Quarterman, Joanne C. Benson, representatives from the offices of Secretary Jake Day, and also Senator Chris Van Hollen and Judge Young. We also have today leaders from Main Street America. I want to recognize Mary Means, who is also the godmother of the Maryland Heritage Areas program, I would say, from her work on that program. Nick Redding, CEO of Preservation Maryland, and Liz Chateau, the director of the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area. Thank you all for being here today. We want to recognize someone whose advocacy and dedication have had a significant impact on Western Maryland, and I think the impact can be seen by the fact that what people can't see who may be viewing this online is the room is packed. And it is packed with people from the community who are in support of this work and who recognize and value the work of the individual we're going to be talking about. It is my distinct honor to present the 2026 Maryland Preservation Award for Outstanding Individual Leadership at the Local Level to Reggie Turner. For years, Reggie Turner has led preservation, interpretation, and redevelopment efforts centered on the Jonathan Street community and the Robert W. Johnson Community Center, where we are. These places hold deep cultural and historical importance within Hagerstown's African American community, and Reggie has worked to ensure that their stories remain visible, accessible, and connected to the future of the neighborhood. At a time when many of these historic resources were underdocumented and at risk of further loss, Reggie helped bring together preservation professionals, community organizations, local government, state agencies, and philanthropic partners around a shared vision for preservation and reinvestment. His leadership advanced public interpretation of the Jonathan Street community through tours, educational programming, archaeology, and media outreach, including the PBS documentary The House on Jonathan Street, which brought national attention to the neighborhood's history and preservation efforts. Reggie also played a leading role in the redevelopment, planning, and funding efforts for the Robert W. Johnson Community Center, helping launch a major capital reinvestment project focused on the long-term sustainability of this important community institution. One of the most meaningful outcomes of this work has been the restoration and planned reopening of the center's historic swimming pool, once the only pool available to Black residents in Hagerstown, after it had been closed for more than a decade. And I understand we're looking forward to opening it up this summer, so it's very exciting. Through his leadership, Reggie Turner has demonstrated how historic preservation can support education, community identity, public investment, and neighborhood revitalization all at the same time. On behalf of the Maryland Historical Trust, I'm pleased to present the 2026 Maryland Preservation Award for Outstanding Individual Leadership at the local level to Reggie Turner. Reggie, congratulations.
Thank you, Nikki, cousin. And thank you to the Maryland Historical Trust for this recognition. I'm deeply honored to receive this award, and I'm grateful to everyone who has contributed to the work that brought us here today. I want to acknowledge Judge David Young, the board of the Robert W. Johnson Community Center, Senator Joanne Benson, Senator Paul Quarterman, the Department of Housing and Community Development, Elizabeth Hughes, and the Maryland Historical Trust, preservation and Main Street leaders, community partners, and everyone who traveled to Hagerstown to be with us this afternoon. I also want to give a special thank you to Senator Joanne Benson. Senator Benson has been an advocate, a mentor, and a supporter of me and the Jonathan Street community for more than a decade. Much of this progress that we see would not have happened without her consistent support and willingness to champion this community and its history long before others were paying attention. I'm deeply grateful to her leadership and her friendship. The truth is, the truth is, none of this work happens alone. A lot of communities across the country are wrestling with the same questions right now. What do we do with places that have been overlooked? What do we do with neighborhoods that once thrived, but later experienced disinvestment and decline? What do we do with buildings that still hold history, but no longer receive investment? Too often the answer is demolition, disconnection, or silence. But preservation, at its best, asks a different question. It asks, what is still worth saving? What stories still matter? What possibilities still exist if people are willing to work together? That is what this journey has been about. Years ago, many people had looked at Jonathan Street many people stopped looking at the lens of Jonathan Street as a land of opportunity. The narrative surrounding this community had narrowed to be too small. But the history here was never small. This community helped shape Hagerstown. It shaped families. It shaped culture. It shaped resilience. And it shaped generations of people whose stories deserve to be remembered and respected. The rediscovery and preservation of the log cabin at 417 North Jonathan Street became an important turning point in changing how people viewed this community. It reminded people that history still exists here, even if it had been neglected or forgotten. But eventually I realized something important. Saving one structure is meaningful. Saving the surrounding community matters even more. That realization helped deepen the work taking place here at the Robert W. Johnson Community Center. This building has served generations of this community. People learned here, gathered here, played here, and grew up here. And today, we're not simply trying to restore an old building. We're trying to restore momentum. We're working to create a place where preservation connects to opportunity, where history connects to investment, and where community institutions once again become anchors of education, recreation, workforce development, health, and neighborhood stability. That is the larger vision. What encourages me most is that this work has brought together people from very different backgrounds and institutions. We have preservation leaders, Main Street leadership, DHCD, elected officials, healthcare leaders, nonprofit organizations, educators, business leaders, and community residents, all contributing in different ways. That collaboration matters. Because strong communities are not rebuilt by one organization. They're rebuilt through partnerships, trust, and long-term commitment. And let me say this clearly. Communities like Jonathan Street should never be counted out. Not because the challenges are easy. They are not. But because people still live here. Families still care here. History still lives here. And the potential still exists here. I believe one of the greatest responsibilities of leadership is helping people to see possibility again, especially in places where hope has worn thin. That work requires patience. It requires persistence. And sometimes it requires continuing forward long before momentum becomes visible. But I believe the work happening here proves something important. Historic preservation still matters. Community institutions still matter. And partnerships built around shared purpose can still create meaningful change. I also want to thank my family, my friends, colleagues, and everyone who has supported and encouraged this work over the years. And before I close, I would like to acknowledge and thank Senator Chris Van Hollen's office for this citation that was shared today. I sincerely appreciate the recognition and support. Thank you again to the Maryland Historical Trust for this honor. And thank you for all of you for being a part of this continuing story. There is much more work ahead, but I believe the future of this community is far brighter than many have imagined. The work continues. Thank you.